Normally for ratio questions, there will be something that remains unchanged. It could be one item, the difference or the total. Sometimes however, nothing remains unchanged. For example, in this question, John spends $30 and Tom spends $20. Neither person remains the same. Since they spent different amounts of money, their difference does not remain the same either. Furthermore, the money is not being transferred within themselves, so the total changes. For cases like this, we can use what's known as the units and parts method. This method is pretty long, so I like to split it into 3 steps. Don't worry. Once you master this technique, you can actually use it for the other 3 types of ratio questions as well, as a last resort. The first step is just writing the ratios down. John had 1/3 the amount of money that Tom had, so that's 1 unit for John and 3 for Tom. In the end, their ratio is 1:10. We can't tell whether the units in the left set of ratio is the same size as the units in the right set. So we will just call the ones on the left units, and the ones on the right we shall call parts. This is just to differentiate the 2 sets. Now, John spent $30, so we know that John's amount at first minus $30 will give us John's amount in the end. Draw an arrow illustrating this. Do the same for Tom. Since Tom spends $20, Tom's amount at first minus $20 will give us Tom's amount in the end. That's all there is to step 1. Practice this step for 3 different questions before you proceed to step 2. The second step is pretty easy too. Simply write down the equations based on what you see in the diagram. Sounds complicated? Let me show you how easy it is. John has 1 unit at first. We know from the diagram that when you minus 30, you arrive at what he has in the end, which is 1 part. So, just write down 1 unit minus 30 equals 1 part. Do the same for Tom. 3 units minus 20 equals 10 parts. Now, draw a box around the equations on the left side of the equal signs like so. We see that the red box equals 1 part and the black box equals 10 parts. We want the 2 boxes to be equal. We know that if we multiply 1 part by 10, we can get 10 parts. So, we can make the red box equal to the black box by multiplying by 10, which gives us 10 units minus 300. Remember to multiply everything inside the box by 10. Now we can see that the red box is equal to the black box because they are both equal to 10 parts. That's all there is to step 2. Practice this step with the same 3 questions. Then redo a couple of questions starting from step 1. For the last step, we just write down what we obtained from the second step. The black box is equal to the red box, so 3 units minus 20 equals 10 units minus 300. Now, we are going to do what is sometimes called balancing the equation. To get a better idea of how to do this step, draw a balance scale like so. Since the left side is equal to the right side, the balance scale is, well, balanced. Circle each item on the balance scale. Note that each item has its own sign, which can be found on its left. In this case, the sign of 20 is a minus or negative sign. The sign of 300 is also a minus sign. How about 3 units and 10 units? If an item does not have a sign, it is automatically assigned a plus, or positive sign. Now, what we want to do is to add or remove items until we are only left with units on one side, and numbers on the other. Remember, it has to be balanced at all times. So, we can get rid of the 3 units on the left side by taking away 3 units. But now, the left side will be lighter. To ensure that it is balanced, we need to remove 3 units from the right side as well. 10 units minus 3 units is 7 units, but sometimes you might end up in a weird situation where you get a smaller number minus a bigger number. If this happens, just do it the opposite way and remove the units from the other side of the balance scale instead. Now that it is balanced, we can remove the number from the right side of the equation. How do we remove negative 300? Easy. We simply add 300 to make it 0. But now the right side is heavier. So to balance the equation again, we need to add 300 to the left side as well. Now, we write down what we have as an equation. Plus 300 minus 20 equals plus 10 units minus 3 units. You can ignore the plus sign if the item appears on the extreme left. That means plus 300 minus 20 is simply 300 minus 20, which is 280. Similarly, plus 10 units minus 3 units is simply 10 units minus 3 units, which is 7 units. We have figured out that 7 units is equal to 280. To find 1 unit, divide by 7. Since John had 1 unit at first, the answer is $40. Practice step 3 using the 3 questions. And then practice all 3 questions again starting from step 1.